do that first? Or you do it
Yeah,
already?
you're live now.
Okay.
We do that already.
Good. That is the sound of your bang, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, we'll be introducing to you something that is brand new. We're talking about Maroon Times TV. On Maroon Times TV this evening, we'll be introducing to Jamaica, the Maroon sovereign state, and the global world community. Basically, we have been hearing much about Jamaica, but the secret of Jamaica is two state in one. Today, Maroon Times on YouTube will bring you closer to the reality. My name is OG Rastology Francis, Maroon Paramount Chief, officiated at United Nations level. We'll share with you now a bit of information on our website, of course, and our objective is to introduce you to the web portal, of course, of the Maroons. Here, the written information will tell you the Nyankapong State Government Portal was designed to better disseminate and receive strategic late-breaking information sensitive to the now manifestation and the following Maroon Indigenous People Nation building, UNILO 169. Turn off the radio. In fact, now let's stop
So
it.
now for what them up
Yeah,
there on this
throw
one
me
now.
off, but I'm have to fight against it. I did say that long time. See? Now if you concentrate against it.
Yeah, let me turn on that
Okay, you
music.
pause it.
Yeah, man. Good.
Go up. Yeah. Concentration is everything. We start over.
No, because it's a live stream. You can just start over where I say. You can start explain back over.
Alright, one minute there again.
You start back over from
Okay, now to come.
yeah.
Of course, this is the web portal and it's explaining that the Nyankapong State Government Portal was designed to better disseminate and receive strategic late-breaking information sensitive to the now manifestation in the following Maroon Indigenous Peoples Nation building, ILO 169. We're talking about United Nations Indigenous and Tribal Peoples Convention, ILO 169. It's the mandate of United Nations procedure operating under the enforcement of the traditional 1738 Maroon Treaty federal law, crystallizing 21st century consortium of the much needed First Nation Indigenous People Heritage Protection, Preservation, and Awareness. Also, this portal will give much information, and one of the most interesting new topic in the Maroon government is our MSS ID, Maroon Sovereign State ID. Basically, this is the graphics um, taken from the web portal, and we're expecting to disseminate a lot of information that was not released to the general public in the last 300 years. You have to get the police over there. So you upload the rest of the information after that.
Yeah, man. So you just point them to your website. So just make them know which way your name of your website. Yeah, man. Just make them know your name of your website. So
The site is not up right now, but the it will be up anyway.
yeah, so you can make them know the name what they gonna come up under.
Mm.
And you understand me? You must learn more about the Maroon history. Yes, so they're on here with the right here with the Maroon chief, my people. So you need to know the history.
Right. Basically, we are located at Three Finger Jack Maroon Heritage Site, of course. Um, Geographically, we are some 13 miles in what you would call Bull Bay. Um, we know it as Windward Road because the roadway was used by the Windward Maroons to walk from Portland or Moortown to downtown Kingston. So the roadway is nothing new. So we are at 13 miles and we are at 3FJ Maroon Heritage Site. Basically, our objective is to release to the general public um, what is called United Nations mandated re-education. See, it was the mandate of United Nations to release strategic late-breaking information to the new indigenous peoples community. Um, and that took place on the 5th of September 1991. Remember that date, 5th of September 1991. That was the date when the United Nations declared that the Queen of England is no more monarchical ruler of Jamaica. And mainly so because the colonial government did not release this strategic information that England, I'm going to repeat this, England, the crown, at least, repeat the word, lease, lease the lands from the Maroons. So King George II had signed a lease, and the lease was terminated in 1991, the 5th of September. So because of the treaty, fundamentally, Jamaica was bestowed with the status of indigenous people. Mainly so, the Maroons inhabited the lands before it was colonized. So based on those information, I bet you did not know that the lands were leased. So, and based on that information, we'll be using this terminal to disseminate all this information. And in the back, we will be using a website, of course, and the website would be it's Nyankipong, really, R2P.org. So we'll be having a .org in response to your questions. Most of your questions will be answered at the .org website, of course. Right. Let me see if I can get the web up. Oh, that is it. That's it so far. Right. Uh, by the team blind metal McCann. Right, the McCann MC. Anyway, um, we'll be using the .org to disseminate the finer details. Like I mentioned before, one of the most important things will be coming up is the introduction of the new MSS ID, which is the Maroon Sovereign State ID. In brief, I would like to talk about that briefly. The Maroon Sovereign State ID came about the fact that Jamaica is in a transitory period. The colonial government is disappearing, and the Maroon become the new owner, officiated from United Nations, from St. Thomas in the east to Negril Point. So the word Jamaica disappears slowly, and the new word Nyankopong is coming into existence. So it's a transition. In that transition, if the police or the government agency should, you know, you should come into contact with these colonial agencies, and you have a case in court. But let's say that your family is from a Maroon descent, then it would only be constitutionally correct that your matter be represented in front of the British court as a Maroon citizen. But how do you prove that? So the ID is an acceptable instrument not only in Jamaica but around the world. When there is a difference in two states, then you would need an immediate document that is kept in the privacy of the individual that explains the diplomacy and the difference of the government. That is the purpose of your ID. And the corner of our original ID, you will see the expression R2P. What does R2P mean? It means United Nations have officiated an extra argument that gives the right to small sovereign states like the Maroons, who is now officiated to establish their new state. So R2P means responsibility to protect. You see, this idea came about when the situation of Rwanda. Well, remember, you must have heard about what happened in Rwanda. And then the Blood Diamond story. Well, about two other countries went into the same situation, but it wasn't publicized like the way the Rwanda story was publicized. By the time they went into the fifth country to attack those countries, those were indigenous people states, they got assistance by some other agencies who thought that they should not be destroyed, and they opened fire before time, before the expected time, and they end up killing a lot of their attackers. Well, the attackers had connection with the United Nations, and what they did, they went to the United Nations, expecting the United Nations would have given the right to to them, but they did not get the right. They did not get the right. What happened is that a number of persons got together and they formed a coalition. The argument went in front of the United Nations. United Nations did not win, and so that it's not an official law, but it's facilitated within the umbrella of the United Nations. And as a result of that, instead of sitting down in Jamaica and allow the police, like what happened in Tivoli Garden, to come in your community and gun you down totally, then it is in the consciousness of the minds of the people that regardless of what your government is saying, that as a group of indigenous people, you have the right to protect yourself. Thank you very much.
Alright, people.
I mean, no, what make you move the buckle, brother, and I push your hand across? I mean, the thing done me, you know?